Hi everyone, good morning. My name is Abhishek and today we are going to be discussing VAT and PI tips for the IPM, perhaps not in terms of the VAT of course, but the PI tips will definitely help. SET, which is indirectly saying your SLAT PIs. So just ignore the nomenclature because I'm doing this as a common session for a lot of kids. So of course, what I mean is SLAT, the symbiosis bits. Like I said, my name is Abhishek, and what we'll do is we will leave all of the questions for later, or what you can do is you can write in the chat box and we will try to answer the questions as soon as possible, right? So let's go ahead and talk about today's Gyan. Now, for those who are joining us on Zoom for some reason, then you guys need to ensure that you just click on the raise hand feature, although I think most of you are joining from YouTube. So that sort of thing gets ruled out. I'll just quickly go ahead and in that case, just go to the topic at hand, which is the written assessment test. Now, Symbiosis is unique in the sense that it does not require just the SLAT scores to select you or shortlist you for the final what we call conversion. It will also require the written assessment scores and the personal interview scores. So everything has been given a certain amount of weightage, including the CV. Now, if you have been shortlisted for the VAT and PI round, you might have received some sort of CV format. And I urge all of you guys to ensure that you fill out those details on time and upload the details in the format. Now, coming to the VAT, what is tested in the VAT is the first thing that we need to understand. So what I call the 3 C's are what are tested in the VAT. We start with initially something called communication. Now, when I say communication, what that means is we need to ensure that whatever we are writing is grammatically correct. Perhaps we should avoid spelling mistakes, perhaps the capitalization of letters, stuff like that. So basic English should be fine. So that is one part. The second thing is, what are you going to actually write? Whether the reasoning you have provided perhaps, or whether the answer you have provided is logically justified, does it make sense, things like that. And finally, we go to the coherence part. And this actually is the most important part, coherence. So what is coherence is ensuring that the ideas that you have, so let's say I give you a topic and you might have 4 or 5 things that you might want to write about it. But at the very minimum, make sure that, okay, have I organized my ideas in the right way? Now, what I mean by organization is, does my VAT have a clear beginning, middle, and end? All right, wherein you introduce the topic properly, wherein you ensure that you label your points firstly, secondly, things like that, and you write in conclusion, I would like to say something like that. So all of these things are what I mean by your control, which is your coherence part, your communication part, and your content, right? Now, of course, since this video is live, you don't need to take screenshots, etc. So we'll just push forward to the next bit of the discussion, which is some basic instructions when it comes to the VAT. Now, there isn't any word limit defined. A lot of people ask me, is there a word limit defined to the VAT that says, okay, no, it has to be 300 words, or it has to be 350 words, whatever it is. The size of the VAT will be limited to, of course, how much data you have, how many reasons you can put forth, how much content you have in simple terms, right? So make sure that you have enough content to write on the matter, because otherwise then there's no point, right? So what they are expecting is somewhere from 350 to 500 words. And honestly, that might feel like a long range. Oh my gosh, it's 500 words. But just try and understand that when they're saying 500 words, it's just the upper limit. There's nothing wrong if you write a 300 word VAT. But that to me tells, as an evaluator, it's an indicator that, oh, probably this kid does not have too many points to talk about. So try and ensure that you practice enough so that you understand that, okay, boss, yeah, I mean, broadly my word limit is around 300, 350 or something like that. And if you keep it around 350, you should be more than satisfied, right? As for the upper limit, if let's say you have too many points and you have all the time in the world and you have elaborated those points well, what if it goes to 550? That as an evaluator is not really going to be seen negatively. But what I will know is that perhaps this person doesn't know how to prioritize. So you might want to pick the 3 or 4 best, let's say, justifications, reasons, or thought process or whatever, and then try and make sure you talk only about 3, 4 things. Right? There's no absolute necessity that if you have 10 points, you have to put down all the 10 points. And to be honest, you won't have the time for it. So let's just try and ensure that whatever we are doing it well. We're giving quality out. Right? Now, the time for the VAT is 20 minutes, but we don't know. It might just be half an hour. It depends entirely on the instructions that have come out this time around. Unfortunately, I have not seen the exact VAT later. So I can't really tell you if it is 20 minutes or 30 minutes. In either case, I will give you a time distribution sort of matrix, if you want to call it, to tell you, okay, this much time you should put on this much time you should put on that, etc. And we'll see how it goes. Right? Of course, you will do a lot of practice, so that'll take care of most of the issues. Okay. Moving forward, the next thing we need to understand is that your ideas, when I say that you have 20 minutes, you have 10 points, but which of them should you write? That is all involved in the planning stage. So make sure that you have an idea of what you're going to write, or more specifically, what all you are going to write before you actually start. A mistake that a lot of kids do is that, okay, they read the topic, okay, this is the topic, they take like 5 seconds and they just start typing furiously at their keyboards, and I'm wondering, hold on. And then all they have to do is, oh wait, backspace, cut, this, that, and all of these things they end up doing, and they lose time, right? That's why I'm saying, take a moment, take a breath. That's absolutely allowed. It's not like they're going to say, this person is breathing too much and taking a lot of time, perhaps we should deduct his marks. They're not going to do that. They're not silly enough. So what they will do is they'll say, okay, at least this person is figuring out what he or she needs to write, and then planning and then executing the essay. Right? So make sure that you are planning the essay, you are making a note of the 3, 4 points that you want to write down. Now, of course, at this point, I want you to be careful, because you are going to be tested online. They might want to see your surroundings, right? So if they ask you to rotate the camera perhaps and see if you're not hiding any paraphernalia like your cell phones, etc., you have to ensure that you're abiding by the instructions. Normally, if it were an offline VAT, then I would say it's okay to carry a pen and paper and make a note of your points, and then you can go ahead and start writing your VAT. But this time around, because it's online, we are not really sure as to how they're going to go about it, how finicky they're going to be when it comes to checking our surroundings, etc. So there's no need to be discreet and, do all of this nonsense, and perhaps they won't notice I'm writing down points on the side of my laptop, stuff like that. There's no reason to do that. Just take a moment, close your eyes, and list out those points in your head, and then go ahead and start writing. Or in this case, start typing. All right. So the typing part is the next bit. You will not have something like a Word file that is open in front of you on which you will have to type. You will have a text editor. Think of it as Notepad, meaning that it won't autocorrect your spellings. It won't ensure that the capitalizations happen on their own. It won't ensure that any errors that you are making are highlighted as red, green, blue, whatever. Nothing of that sort. And crucially, you won't know the word limit as well. All it will show is what you're typing as is. So it is your responsibility to ensure that you are using the shift key, which is a wonderful key to capitalize stuff and all that. You're using the shift key properly, you're using the right punctuations. Keep an awareness of what things are where, etc. If you feel your typing speed is on the lower side, that makes all the more reason to practice writing not on Word, but on Notepad. So for those who are planning to write and practice your VAT topics, of course, sample VATs we will share at the end of the presentation. But for those who are planning to write down things like this, make sure that you're writing it on Notepad, so you get a sort of raw feel of what to expect on the actual day. Now, bringing us to the next point, because Word has this sort of inbuilt function where when you click on enter, it assumes that it's the next paragraph. and then it sort of leaves that space automatically. You in Notepad don't have that facility, right? So you have to press enter twice. Look, I know this is something that I don't need to tell you. You're all tech savvy pretty much, but it's still my responsibility to tell you to ensure that you demarcate your paragraphs properly. So that does not happen in a text editor. You have to ensure that you put the double space and then ensure that all of it is nicely demarcated. Okay, para 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Right? Let's move on to the next page. Now, the font size, this point does not work for you. It is not applicable because the text editor will have its own predetermined font. So this was assuming that it went offline. So some of my stuff might not be entirely useful. So we'll just take that with a pinch of salt. In case if it were offline, then you should ensure that your handwriting is in place, etc. Now, make sure that you are managing your content within the space provided. So if they have a character limit, perhaps, let's say 5,000 characters or 500 words or 350 words or something, make sure that if it shows words remaining or characters remaining, you are sticking to that limit, which obviously also tells you that there is no window to overshoot, right? So make sure that you're sticking with the limit. Check the interface properly and say, oh, okay, there's no character limit. Just type a couple of letters or words and see, is there any character? Yeah, okay. Then you're pretty much sorted. Just take a quick glance at your interface. Should be more than set. Okay. Now, moving on to something called the time distribution. This is something that we need to talk about. It's pretty straightforward. When I say time distribution, what you should be doing, because it's a 20-minute WAT. I know what it says on the screen. Relax, because it's a 20-minute WAT. The allocation that we are looking at is 2 to 3 minutes to, like I said, close your eyes and plan your thoughts. Right? What you should write, what you should not write, leave out, etc. And if they are allowing you to keep that notepad in front of you, you can just jot down your points. Right? If you have someone who is monitoring you, it's perfectly okay to ask that person whether you can use a notepad to write down stuff. If they allow you, great. If not, don't risk it. Okay. Now, coming back to the issue at hand, 2 to 3 minutes to plan your WAT, wherein you make a mental note or a written note of the points you want to write. Right. Make sure that you then take a good 15 minutes to write down your WAT, which I believe is more than enough considering the practice that you will do from this point onwards. That's number 2. And then the balance 2-3 minutes is what you will take to proofread your WAT. I cannot stress this enough. A lot of kids take the last second to keep writing, and they forget that there is something called proofread. In the rare case that you miss a capitalization, you miss a punctuation perhaps, or you make a spelling mistake, because you are also in the heat of the moment, right? So because Word does not, there's not a text editor that will auto-correct your spellings, you might end up just making a simple typo error, right? So just ensure that you're not going through all of that pain and faltering at the last minute. So I want you guys to ensure that it's a flawless essay and no one really has a chance to point out and say, oh wait, that it made an error. So that is the factor that will determine your selection or rejection, right? So let's not push it to that limit. So 3-2 for planning your essay, right? Essay or WAT, 15 to type, and then 2-3, because that's the balance, to proofread and spell check, right? This is all assuming 20 minutes. Of course, if it were 30 minutes, 5 plus 20 plus 5, right? And I said, that's a disclaimer at the beginning that I haven't really seen what is the call letter all about. It's 20 minutes or half an hour. So you can make that decision. But as I mentioned before, make sure that you're practicing based on this sort of demarcation of time, and you are practicing on Notepad, not MS Word. All right. Moving on to what we can expect in the WAT. Now, when we say expect, there are a couple of types of WATs that typically come up. No type is obvious. All right. They won't say write a so-and-so type WAT on something, right? You have to take a look at the topic and then figure out, is this type A or type B or type C, right? Then accordingly make adjustments in your brain and then go ahead and write on the topic or type on the topic. I'm still getting used to the type part rather than the write part, but you'll have to forgive me for that. So what are these various types that I keep talking about? The first is something called an opinion-driven WAT, which is a simple yes or no, true or false, agree or disagree sort of WAT. So something like, has the time come for India to start focusing on its own interests rather than bow to Western powers? Has the time come? Yes or no, right? India should do so and so. Agree, disagree. It's pretty straightforward. It'll be in the form of a question or a statement. That's not really the point. The point is, it's an agree, disagree, a true, false, or a yes, no sort of opinion-driven WAT. As expected, when you start your WAT, you have to mention what is the opinion, and then go on to, in the future paragraphs, mention the reasons for it, and then go ahead and summarize those reasons and close the WAT. Right? Now, the exact format I will share probably 2 slides later, so you just have to hang on to that for now. But I hope everyone can follow this properly. I'm not checking on YouTube on the site to see whether everything is hunky-dory. But in the rare case that there is any problem, we will try and iron out the kinks. Right? Right. Coming back to the topic, opinion-driven WATs. These are your agree, disagree type, or yes, no, or true, false. Something I want to make abundantly clear in an opinion-driven WAT is that you have to take a stand on the issue. Make sure to not do what is called fence sitting, meaning, I agree that there are some reasons to say yes. I disagree with some of that is not going to do. Make sure that you are taking a side and sticking to it. Now, how am I supposed to know what side to take? That's where your mental calculation comes in, right? Okay, I've got 3 points for and 4 against. So I'll probably write both and then let's see where the dice falls. Don't do that. If you have a clear majority on one side, you pick that one and go ahead with it. Make sure that you are not doing this whole diplomatic game of I don't know. That is not what is expected. You are expected to take a firm and clear stand as long as you are giving the right reasons for it. Bringing me to the next point, the reasons. Do not give reasons that are opinions. Okay, saying that, say, should India listen to its own interests and focus on its own interests rather than bow down to Western powers? Say that yes, of course, India should talk about its own interests and work on its own interests rather than bowing to Western powers. Reason number 1, who are they to tell us this US is so horrible as a, what? Relax, calm down. You can't say all of that, right? You can't write all of that. Because if you say that the US is such and such country, or this country is such and such country, right? That's your opinion. Do you have data to say that, okay, you know what, this is actually because a so-and-so report suggested, blah, blah, blah. And if you don't have the data for it, then that just becomes an opinion, correct? So you can say that, oh, so-and-so person is a horrible person, but is there enough evidence to say that, okay, so-and-so person is a horrible person? If you don't, then that's an opinion. So stay away from personal opinions and don't use them as reasons. As long as you can use logical reasons, fair, I will still agree. Now, when I say data and justification, it does not always mean that you need to have figures. It can also be incidents, right? Remember things like factual passages way back when you were preparing for your exams. Factual passages were all about information, right? That cannot be questioned. Now, by that, I also mean not just figures, but incidents, examples, instances. All of these also count toward fact-based justifications. So that's perfectly all right to use those as justifications. But make sure that you're writing something. You can't just write something and say, oh, that's it. It is how it is, right? You have to prove it by saying blah, blah, blah. The US is a horrible country because they rank so-and-so in this index, or the so-and-so factor in the education is blah, blah, or let's say societal structure is blah, blah. Give me something, okay? The second thing is when it comes to facts, a lot of kids ask me, is it okay if we fudge facts? Don't. Your future lawyers, all right? Don't fudge facts. If you don't know the exact number, it's okay to round it off, which I understand. So let's say the figure is 167.2 billion, all right? If you want to say over 165 billion or under 170 billion, I completely understand. It's all right to even say that it's just close to 175 billion. That's absolutely understandable. But don't say over 100 billion. My point is, even if you want to approximate, try to be as close to the original data as possible. That's one. And don't mention facts without context. So a World Bank report mentioned that so-and-so $1 billion of debt so-and-so country has. Now that I understand. But don't say somewhere in some leading bank mentioned some time ago that some number of $1 billion. So don't be vague when it comes to presenting facts. Try to be as close to the source and as close to the date, because World Bank report of 2021 sounds a lot more vague than a World Bank report in September 2021. Okay, so be as close to the dates, be as close to the source, be as close to the number as possible. Some level of approximation is allowed, but don't be too far off from the actual data. That is what I mean by your justification in terms of facts and figures. Whenever you state your opinion, don't use words like I think or I feel, right? It's recommended that you use words like I believe, because that suggests a little bit more conviction in your opinion. I think and feel is more like maybe, perhaps, and things like that. But when you say I believe, it suggests a stronger conviction. So make sure that when you're typing, don't say I think that India is, preferably, right? I believe India is or needs to, something that denotes intensity rather than yeah, India could do this. Notice the difference, right? So hold on. Apparently there is some problem in my connection. Just a second. Okay. Guys, I'm not sure the video is visible or not, but for some reason the video has decided to comp off from my end. If you could just give me 1 second, let me just double check. Okay, great. Now, let's go on to the next bit. Since I've been talking about opinion-driven maths for too long, just a quick summary. Make sure to write words like I think, or sorry, I believe, rather than an I think or an I feel. Okay, moving on to the next bit. The next bit is something called a choice-driven WAT. Now, a choice-driven WAT, as the term suggests, is where you have to pick. And by pick, I really do mean you have to pick. You can't just say maybe this, maybe that. Just like an opinion-driven WAT, you have to also ensure in this case that you pick something or someone. Now, the two things that are there in a choice-driven WAT are things that are mentioned. So finite and infinite choice. Easy to understand. If I give you 3 choices and I say, okay, Mahindra, Tata, and Maruti, which among these makes the best cars in India? That's called a finite choice. All right. When I say something like this, you can't pick a fourth and say, you know what? Probably force motors makes better cars. So you can't introduce a new factor and say, no, all 3 are wrong. This is better. So if I give you 3 options, you have to pick from one of the 3. Or you have to pick not from the 3. You have to pick one of them and then say that, okay, this is the best one because blah, blah, blah. This is the best, whatever. Pick one and you stick to it. Then comes infinite choice. Of all the manufacturers of cars in India, who is the best one? Then you say, oh, okay, so that means there are so many and I get to choose. It might be 5, might be 50, I don't care. Pick one. Right? That's called an infinite choice. When they aren't giving you the range and says, no, you have to choose among these things. Right? So make sure that you look at the question a little bit more carefully and then see which of these is the issue. So is it a finite or an infinite choice, and accordingly go ahead and pick your choice. Now, again, just like the opinion driven VAT, because you are picking, it's in essence stating your opinion, right? Okay, I believe this is the better one. So the same rules apply, like we said, for the opinion driven VAT. I believe this is the better one because so and so, same rules. Now, then we get on to something called an analytical VAT. An analytical VAT, as the term suggests, has the word analysis in it. Now, if I want to say analysis, it cannot be just a one-sided VAT, so to speak. Meaning that it can't have opinions typically, where we say agree, disagree, good, bad, etc. You have to analyze a topic, means you have to look at a topic from various perspectives. Okay, so a simple topic that you can expect is the effects of Russia's war on Ukraine. That's it. That's a rather simple analytical VAT topic. Now, when I say effects, you can't just say, okay, the amount of damage that has been inflicted on Ukraine in terms of property damage. That cannot be the sole focus of your VAT. I don't mind if it is, but I would rather rate someone who says, okay, so with Ukraine, this happened. And then because of that, the US did this, the UK did this, the EU did this, India did this, China did this, so and so other country did this. It's also affecting globally how in these respects. I need all of that. How is it affecting Russia in the first place? Right? Even that we'll have to talk about. So that's what I meant by analyzing a topic from various perspectives. You can't just say it's all about the property damage, right? And that too only of one country. How is it affecting global supply chains? I'm sure all of you know that there's a food shortage because Ukraine is a heavy exporter of wheat and blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get into that. But the point is that make sure that you are looking at the topic from a variety of angles, not just keep saying, oh, this much billion worth of property, this much billion worth of property, or these many numbers of people were killed, etc., etc. That's not the only thing we should be talking about. And we shouldn't be talking about it just from the point of view of the Ukraine. We should also be talking about it from the point of view of other countries. Okay, this country has been impacted in such and such manner, and so on, right? But I assume all of you got the idea behind what I say when we are looking at an analytical VAT. I will give you a little bit more pointers on the analytical VAT. Just give me a couple of slides. The next thing is something called an abstract VAT. Now, this is something that Symbiosis has not been known to ask frequently, and I use the term frequently quite loosely. Frequently, they don't ask, but if they do, they do. So, what's an abstract VAT? An abstract VAT is where the topic appears to be of a certain nature, but it actually isn't. And what they're looking for is your perspective on the topic. So say, for example, he who laughs last laughs longest. What am I supposed to do with this topic? That's where you're supposed to come up with various perspectives, various ways of looking at the topic. So you have to think about what this means. Now, I'm not going to tell you the entire answer, obviously, but you'll have to think about what the topic means. And you're like, okay, it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this, right? So make sure you write all the three. Now here, you aren't supposed to give precedence to any one particular perspective and say, you know what, it means only this. The amount of variety that you bring into your perspectives is what is going to give you more marks in your VAT when it comes to an abstract VAT topic. So one topic that I ask kids to get practice on is a simple topic that says tiger versus dragon. That's it. That's your topic. Now the problem is, most kids, when they hear tiger versus dragon, the thought that comes to their minds is India versus China. And then they say, oh, India is this, then China is this, how India is better, then China does this. The entire VAT is all about India and China. But then most people don't realize that there is nothing called a dragon in terms of the mythical beast, right? It's not a real animal or reptile, right? So you can think of it as reality versus imaginary or reality versus mythical, and then give a little bit more things on reality versus imaginary or mythical stuff. And I'm sure then you can think of a couple of more examples, right? But that extra new perspective is what is going to set you apart if you take up an abstract WAT, right? So make sure you take a little bit more time when it comes to formulating your thoughts in an abstract WAT, so that time demarcation that we talked about, that probably will go out the window, because you might take 5 minutes to just think of what the heck is this topic asking of me, right? So make sure you take your time for it, then just go ahead and write as many perspectives as you can. The greater the variety, the better the chances are. Now, does not mean that every topic has to have variety. It depends entirely on the nature of the topic. So it's not wrong if your tiger versus dragon were to be all about India, China. Let me remind you, it's not wrong. I'm saying that it would be better if it had one more perspective to it. Okay. Symbiosis has been asking something called pictorial WATs for a long time. Now, pictorial WATs are, as the name suggests, pictures on which you will have to write a WAT. Now, here's the catch. There will be 2 pictures given. However, the 2 pictures should not be written about individually. The 2 pictures will not also be random pictures. The 2 pictures will have something to do with each other, and they will be connected in some way, and you'll have to connect those 2 pictures and then write about the combined perspective that you are thinking about how they are connected. For example, I cannot give you a bench and let's say an umbrella, then say, go, this is your pictorial WAT topic, right? Think how they are connected. You're wondering how a bench and an umbrella connect, right? So believe me, they are not silly enough to give you topics, or sorry, they're not silly enough to give you pictures that aren't connected. So say, for example, they'll put the photo of our finance minister, right? And this was a topic a couple of years ago. They'll put the photo of our finance minister and then probably put one of those money bags sort of thing with the rupee symbol printed on it. And what that means is you are in essence supposed to maybe give an opinion that says, okay, I know about the budget and this is what my opinions are about the budget. You can do that. Or you can just give a list of the various things that the finance minister has done, right? Or you can be a little bit more specific and say the measures taken to ensure that India doesn't undergo too much inflation, perhaps inflationary control measures, or how they are determined to reach the 5 trillion economy by so and so date, and how they have handled the crisis, the schemes, the subsidies that they have launched to people who have lost their livelihoods. You can be specific if you wish to, but it's not that you have to, because you can look at it from various perspectives. Like it's just the finance minister and a sack of money, right? So it's not like it has to be all about the budget. It would be great if you wrote about it, obviously, but it's okay if you write only about it. There's nothing inherently problematic. Of course, if you mess up the data, then you're in trouble. But apart from that, make sure that you are thinking of it as a connection between the 2 images and then writing on it. So say, for example, I might show you a photo of, I forget the name, I think SM-24 or something. So those missiles that you see on the back of those military trucks, right? The ones that look like Patriot missiles in the US. So you'll have that back of the truck, the thing that raises up, and they'll show you a missile shooting. And then they'll show you sacks of food grain. And you're wondering, now what? You have to think about it a little bit. So you can't just say, okay, one is war and then one is food, and then just write about war, 3 paragraphs, and food, 3 paragraphs. It's about something I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the war on Ukraine and how it is affecting food supply around the world. That is how they are connected. Yes, it is a slightly distant connection, but it is a connection nonetheless. The point is to take a moment and figure out what is the connection and then write on it. You cannot have two disconnected VATs. In one half you talk about image 1 and you talk in the other half about image 2, and then say, wait, these are the two images, thank you, bye. Right? So make sure you're not making that mistake. Right? Stuff like this I have already talked about. We have talked about a couple of examples. So we'll just push forward to the next bit. Now remember, I said for analytical VATs, there is a little bit of hint that we can use. How do I analyze a topic from a variety of angles? How am I supposed to make that connection? Sorry, is through something that we call the Steeples approach. So the Steeples approach is something like social, technological, economic, environmental, blah, blah, blah. You can just look at the slide and read off it. This is something that we use to just generate ideas, right? Where it might not be that every letter has something or the other to write on. Now, say for example, the current war does not really have any technological impact. I mean, the recent semiconductor crisis was there, but that's not really related to the this current war with Russia and the Ukraine. So we can't really write anything about the technological bit. But yes, as many as you can pick from the others, that would be great. You might find multiple important things in probably just the social part or just the environmental part. I don't know. So it's okay to not have something on one side of the letters, meaning one technological or one legal, etc. You might not have stuff to write on, but then try and ensure that you populate the others, as many as you can, and of course major points, not every single small point. Okay, so that is what we mean in the analytical. The GDs, of course, you can ignore. There was a time when GDs also used to be conducted, so we'll scrap that for now. Now, if you look at this one, this is a sample topic for an abstract, right? Which says that when asked what he considered to be his greatest work, the famous architect Frank Lloyd responded the next one. Now, you can look at it in a variety of ways, one of which could be looking to the future. The other could be never compromise, always look at improving yourself, or you can write about, say, for example, not resting on your achievements and pushing yourself, things like that, or don't be complacent, and whatever. I'm just shooting off ideas. So make sure you think of it as 2-3 things and keep pushing, give examples of this person was so many years old, he did so much and still he's pushing, or whatever. I'm sure you guys can figure out ideas for that. So that takes care of the Gyan related to the VAT. Now we look at formats. Now, if I have an opinion or a choice driven VAT, this is the format that I tend to use. This is not something that is set in stone, meaning you have to write it this way. But it would be great if you wrote it, demarcated it this way, so that it looks structured. Because we said one of the more important thing is coherence, meaning I'm willing to let go of a few grammatical errors here and there, or a few spelling errors here and there, if you have great content and if you organize your content in a nicely demarcated manner. So it's okay to sacrifice on 1 or 2 things, but at least give me a good structure, right? Now we start by saying, okay, by the way, although it says bullet points, you are supposed to write it in paragraphs. So this is more for ease of reading than anything. Going to the first point, which is the first paragraph, you will start by restating the topic without making it obvious. So, has the Indian government handled the COVID-19 pandemic well? Right? That's your topic. Let's assume that's your topic. Don't start the VAT by saying, today we have been asked whether the Indian government has handled the pandemic. Don't do that. That is called making it obvious. Okay? You're not supposed to just restate the whole thing and say, okay, I'm just going to copy paste the topic and then I'm going to start writing. You're supposed to put some current or contemporary perspective on the topic and then begin, right? Especially useful when you've got these pictorial VATs where you have to establish a connection. So establish the connection first and then go on to write about it. Now, if I look at that, has the Indian government handled the COVID-19 pandemic well? Don't start by saying today we have been. Say instead that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused widespread problems in a variety of sectors, things like this, and the government has tried to blah, 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 right? And I believe it has dealt with it in so and so manner because colon, and then you said, firstly, it is this, then we can move on. That's what I mean by restating the topic without making it obvious. Don't copy paste the topic, is all. Right? Now look at the next para. Firstly, and then it says reason one followed by explanation on reason. So if I look back at the, has the Indian government handled it well? Firstly, the economic impact hasn't been as bad. Full stop. Most countries face this problem in their economy. This happened in this country, this happened in this country, but in India, this much only happened in spite of this problem, this problem, this problem. So when I say the economic impact wasn't as bad, that is the set of keywords that just introduces or gives us a short intro into the reason. Then most countries, blah, 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 but India did blah, blah, blah is what I call the explanation. Right? Meaning that you're supposed to introduce your reason using a couple of keywords, maybe a phrase perhaps or a clause, and then go on to explain it in detail using facts, figures, examples, justifications, etc. So that is what I mean by firstly reason one plus explanation of reason one. So make sure you do that. You introduce. Firstly, it is this, then you talk about this. Secondly, it is this, then you talk about this, and so on. Okay. Now, you keep writing reasons one after the other. Every reason, assuming it's your notepad format, should be 3 lines tops, not more than that required. So every reason takes 3-4 lines, and you keep writing one by one. But what if you don't have a lot of explanation? Then if you can, bombard them with numbers instead. So write 2 reasons in each paragraph, but then make sure you have 6 reasons, right? And 6 fairly justifiable reasons. You might not have great detail, but you need to have some detail into all of the reasons. So at least you can give multiple and say, okay, look, at least I'm providing too many. Right? So firstly, it is this, India didn't do this. Secondly, it is this, India had a better blah, blah, blah. That will become the second paragraph. Reason 1 and 2 after intro. Reason 1 and 2 together. Then reason 3 and 4 together. Then reason 5 and 6 together. Label them accordingly. That's obviously goes without saying. But make sure then you're dealing with it that way. So numbers or details, either or. In any case, I need to have a minimum of 3 reasons. Okay, minimum of 3 reasons, meaning 3 reasons well detailed and well justified, or any number more than 3 that you can bombard us with. Okay, and then we have the what we call summary or the concluding paragraph that says, and that is why, because of, and then when we say summary of reasons, we need to look only at those keywords that we mentioned initially. And that is why, because of the lower economic impact, the this, and the this, I believe, and then you can go ahead and restate what you just said in terms of your opinion, or I chose in terms of choice, and then wrap up the WAT, right? That becomes your WAT if it is a if it is an opinion driven or a choice driven. Now, like I said, I don't need the exact keywords that I've mentioned, which is why I've written that any combination of these keywords is okay, as long as the intent has been correct, right? So instead of saying that so because of, you want to say, and that is why, that's absolutely fine by, right? And my reasons are as follows. Okay, big deal. So this is just a template, okay? And we'll treat it as such. Moving on to something called the analytical or the abstract WAT format. Now, explain the statement. As I said, the impact of Russia's war on Ukraine. Again, that's the same thing as today we have been asked to analyze the impact of, no, don't do that. Again, make sure to not repeat the topic, just explain what is happening, put it into context, and then you write this topic as various interpretations, or in the case of that analytical one, you can say that this topic can be looked at from a variety of angles, such as, Firstly, let's look at the economic impact. Secondly, let's look at the social impact. Thirdly, let's look at, that's all right. That is what we mean by the analytical or the abstract VAT format. All right. So that takes care of your format. And of course, if you want, you can go ahead and take screenshots later on. But this is your analytical and abstract one. We will try and take questions at the end, and if it is possible. If it isn't possible, we will try and ensure that we respond to your comments or questions in the chat box. We will figure out some other way to do it, because I know it's a bit monologuous and I'm just rushing through stuff, but I think we have covered the VAT in substantial detail, and I think you guys can take the rest of it ahead. Practice, of course, and I'm sure all of you will not have any problem. I will now take care of the PI part, and then I'll just leave the VAT topics on screen, and I will have a colleague who will be joining it. And Paridhi ma'am, since you've seen the indicator, Paridhi ma'am will join in, and she will talk about how to go ahead with the rest of the prep, which is your topics, etc. Right? So let me just get done with the PI bit, then we can close with the list of topics to be discussed. Now, moving on, the personal interview and the dreaded question. Tell me something about it. But I think we are jumping the gun. So we'll take a step back. Something that I want to tell all of you regarding a personal interview, since for most or all of you, this is going to be your first experience in a PI. Something that you need to know is that the PI is, how do I put this? The PI is nothing but a professional date. Professional, and I mean that in the strictest sense. Even they are trying to get to know you. All right. Now, why I'm saying this is because a lot of times people believe that a PI is more of a chance for the panelists to get a hold of your collar and just ask you uncomfortable questions purposely. They want to break you, and they're just trying to make fun of you, find ways of insulting you, or they are just intimidating to a lot of people. So let's get this one thing clear. Those are not at all the objectives of an interview. The objective of an interview is to make you comfortable so that you are in the best headspace to answer a couple of questions that they are also looking to find out of you, so that they know that you are a good candidate who fits in well with the culture and the values of the college you are applying for. Okay, so make sure that you are not getting intimidated or freaked out by the process. Okay, relax. They want you to be at your best. They want you to be relaxed so that they can get true, honest answers out of you, and you can be who you really are rather than having to fake a personality. Right? You can do that with your friends later on. You use personality number 2 for group number 3. Don't do that. But make sure that that faking part you do with your friends, don't do it in a PI. That's one of the easiest things I can tell you about the interview. Like I said, it's a professional date. They're looking to get to know you. Right? So they will ask you to introduce yourself. Sorry. Again, I have jumped the gun on this. Because your interview is going to be online, make sure that you are dressed formally, and we don't want one of you guys to come on the Zoom fails sort of YouTube or TikTok where you are wearing a formal shirt and then you're wearing shorts below it and stuff like that. So make sure you're dressed formally. Something that guys ask me is wearing a suit required? I would say no. It would be great if you did, but if you don't have one, there's no need to go out and buy one. Okay, you're 18, you'll grow out of it in a couple of months' time. All right. So make sure if you have one, use it. If you don't. But a tie is definitely recommended. Okay, a tie and a formal shirt, full sleeved, of course, and formal trousers that go with the shirt. I don't think they will ask to ask you to stand up and twist and turn and give 20 poses, etc. But still, just don't wear shorts below to be safe. That's just a piece of advice. Even when I'm in meetings, I'll just wear a pair of trousers to be safe, because who knows what if the laptop slips and I don't want that sort of embarrassment. So I will wear trousers to be abundantly safe, right? So where were we? So we are talking about attire. Same goes for females. I mean, Indian formals, Western formals, that really doesn't matter. But obviously, you need to have full formals. Don't wear anything garish or something that is reflecting into the camera, stuff with mirrors and stuff like that. All of that stuff, just avoid. Just be elegantly dressed. Simplicity is key, right? You're not there to win a beauty pageant. I'll just summarize it by saying you're not there to win a beauty pageant. So all the grooming and all, okay, do it well and be polished, be refined, be a gentleman. But there's no need to look at it as you're winning a beauty pageant. So don't overdo it is the point. Now, the first question that you get asked is, tell me something about yourself. A lot of people, when they hear this question, they start talking about their entire life history. My name is so-and-so, and this is my hometown. I stay here right now, and this is my 10th schooling. This is the name of my 10th school. This is my percentage. 12th college. This is my percentage, potentially. And yeah, that's about it. And they just randomly close the answer. Or some people go on to talk about their family, and they say, okay, this is the number of members in my family. My father does this, my mother does this. I have a sibling who does so and so. I have a dog. Like, what do I do with that information? Coming back to the issue at hand, this is a professional setting. So no one really cares about your family background. Get rid of it. I don't really want to know too much about your hometown. Lose it. Right? I don't want to know about your pet, for example. Lose it. Your 10th and 12th, you are anyway going to put it on the CV. Right? So, what additionally are you giving me by stating the same stuff or unwanted stuff when I ask you to tell me something about yourself? And then you're like, yeah, there's nothing new. Exactly. So frame your answer to tell me something about yourself properly. I will tell you what I would normally talk about. But do you get the problem here? You're not expected to talk about irrelevant stuff because it's a professional setting. And you're not expected to talk about stuff which is already there on your resume. So make sure that you're talking about things that aren't there on your resume, but still offer an insight into you as a person. Right? It says, tell me something about yourself. Nowhere have you talked about yourself. You've talked about your family, you've talked about your background, but who is it that is you? Nowhere. So we'll scrap that. The tell me something about yourself is crucial because it sets the stage up for the rest of the interview. So if I hear, okay, this person said 1, 2, 3, 4 things, invariably the rest of the interview will circle around those 4 things. Okay. So make sure that you aren't accidentally talking about stuff that you probably wanted to hide or something. And I'm not saying that you will purposely blurt it out, but sometimes in the heat of the moment or purely because of nervousness, you might end up blurting out something that you didn't intend to. So you try and cover it up. Okay. Now, when I say that we should talk about things that are not there on the resume, you don't talk about your strengths and weaknesses in the resume. You don't talk about your best qualities in the resume. You don't talk about what you want to do in the resume, right? Agreed, they've put a career objective part, but that's going to be a pretty vague answer anyway, right, for you guys. So what are your motivations, etc.? You don't talk about all those things. Why don't you talk about it here? Set the stage up and say, I would describe myself as a dash, dash, and dash person. 3 of your best qualities. So I would describe myself as a dash, dash, and dash person. And one of the reasons that I thought about getting into law was because I wanted to do dash, dash, dash in future. And that's the ultimate aspiration. Safe, solid, 1 minute, 30-45 second answer, more than enough. keep this tell me something about yourself answer as close to 30 minutes or sorry 30 seconds or 1 minute, and keep it within that range. Don't go under, don't go over. Okay. Now, you want to add your hobbies, that's absolutely okay. But make sure you talk about stuff like this, or you talk about the answer in this manner, that you're talking about your USPs, your qualities, the 3 best qualities that you have. But please, for heaven's sake, don't give me stuff like honest and punctual, etc. as your 3 strong points. Everyone is honest pretty much, right? Everyone is pretty much punctual. So, I mean, that's not giving me anything as an evaluator or as a rater. I mean, what is so different about you that other kids don't have? So when I say USPs, it has to be something that you have that is different from the others. For lack of a better term, I want to call it the X factor. I don't really like that jargon too much, but it is what it is. So talk about what sets you apart from other candidates. Don't be cocky and all of that, but at least talk about something that you can do, or a trait that you have that is better than other people, right? And this is where a lot of introspection comes in handy. You will have to take a day perhaps to think about what are these 3 things you want to mention, because that, see, you may not know already, but if you really take some time and introspect, you just might come up with the answer, right? Don't ask parents. Typically, they will, because you are their child, they will slightly glorify your qualities. Don't ask your friends. They'll say, "Do you what qualities you have, useless fellow?" They'll just pull you down. So you get what I mean, right? Try to reach out to the right people if you must, and then try to get a good enough answer for the tell me something about yourself. Now, if you notice, I also talked about my reasons for doing law. So that also takes care of a potential question as a teaser, right? That says, why did you choose law, or why do you want to do law, right? So you're sort of giving a really small intro, insight into why you want to do law, by mentioning I want to do law because like a quick 2 or 3 second short introductory insight. So try to think about that. And then obviously, like I said, they'll ask you about these 3 things that you mentioned in the interview, right? So, okay, so you mentioned that you had so-and-so experience in life. That's why you wanted to do law. So tell us more about that. Then you can go on to elaborate, because that's an answer you know. That's something that you felt in your heart that, yeah, this is the reason that I'm doing law, right, in the first place. So then they enter your territory. And then you can relax and say, hey, this is something that I know. This is something that I have felt for a long time. So now you can answer in a much more relaxed and comfortable manner. And that is the zone you want to be. Don't play into their hands. Make them play into your hands. In the sense that lead them graciously. I don't want to call this manipulation or anything, but lead them graciously to questions that you are comfortable answering. Because in comfortable answers, there isn't anything else except for the truth, right? And none of us is here simply because, I heard that law is a fun career. Let's try it and see how it goes. None of us is here for a nonsensical reason like that, right? I'm sure all of you have strong motivations for pursuing law. BA or BBA LLB is irrelevant at this point. Point is that law in general is a strong career choice, right? So there must be a strong motivation. Think about it. They don't really care about what the motivation is. It could be that you want to dictate policy, maybe a lot of years down the line. It could be that you face some sort of legal injustice in your household, right? Or at your relatives or somewhere. You faced it, right? That could be a motivation. It could be that you saw someone else face some sort of legal injustice, right? It could also be that you feel that you want to make legal aid accessible to a lot of people who don't have the means to afford it and who really need it, right? That's why that they're not able to get justice, right? Their rights aren't taken care of, so to speak, right? So typically these 4 reasons are the things that come up as motivations for why do you want to pursue law. There might be something that is unique that I have missed, but typically I tend to talk about these 4 things. So you figure out. Make sure that you have one of these reasons, or if it's something more unique, you can go ahead and talk about it. But something along these lines would really help. Okay. So you say that these are my 3 qualities. Good morning, everyone. My name is Abhishek, and these are my 3 best qualities. Or I would describe myself as a blah blah and blah person. And one of the reasons that I joined, that I thought about pursuing a career in law is because I had an incident in my childhood, and that showed me what legal injustice truly was. And yeah, that spurred my motivation to pick up a law degree. In my spare time, I also try and ensure I keep myself abreast of current affairs and do blah, blah, blah. Something like that. That's what I mean by the hobby part. But you can add your own hobby. Safe, nice, sweet, well-paced 30-second odd answer for tell me something about myself. I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but this is effectively the first impression. So I cannot let this answer go a bit all right. Okay, no room for error. So you'll have to forgive me for spending too much time on this. But then most of the rest of the answers are taken care of. So when you say, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Why do you want to pursue law and blah, blah, blah. All of these things are pretty much taken care of, right? So if you do this well, and if you think about your motivations for pursuing your law, then, hey, okay, so if I do this, then 10 years later I will be there, and then 20 years later I'll be there. Then pretty much all the rest of the boxes are ticked, right? So all the rest of the answers will take care of themselves. Now, the 5 and 10-year question, no one will ask you a 5-year question. Because what would you have done in 5 years? You would have just finished the degree. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? All you can say is, sir, graduating. What else can you say, right? So they're not silly enough to ask you the 5-year answer. Ask you the 5-year question. But what they will ask you is the 10-year question or the 20-year question. So 5 plus 5 is what you are going to count as 10, not the course completion plus 10. Okay. So when you say 5 plus 5, don't say that you are going to become a judge or something. Careful, it's not how it works, right? If you pick BBA, you start by saying you would have started working in the firm, in a corporate law firm, for example, and you would have started understanding what are your responsibilities as a corporate counsel and as an employee of the law firm, and you would have started handling a little bit more depth of work or a variety of work in 5 years post your course. Simple, safe answer, right? Right? Pretty straightforward. Then when you are asked about the 20-year question, which is 5 plus 15, right? That is when you can go on to talk about the big stuff, right? Say, for example, you want to get into the judiciary or something like that, or you want to head the corporate counsel of a big MNC perhaps, stuff like that, whatever. Then you can, form your own answers accordingly. But then 20 years, rather 5 plus 15, 15 seems a bit okay to at least say that you put your foot in through the door in the seniority level, right? So that's probably about it when it comes to the short-term and long-term goals. Short as in really short, 5 years, they're not dumb enough to ask you. So you can just forget about that part of the issue, okay? Take you, hire you, of course, is for jobs, etc. Why should we admit you? Well, isn't that what you just answered? You in the tell me something about yourself. So all you have to do is repeat your 3 strongest qualities, right? That plus how you can add value to the law school. Okay, this is something that you have to think about, because everyone's answer is going to be different. People have contributed in debate competitions, etc., in committees, and have been organizing events, done some volunteer work, etc. You can talk about how your organizational skills might come in handy, or leadership skills might come in handy. If you're a debate and an MUN sort of person in school, college, etc., you can talk about how your oratory skills might come in handy. You can represent the college in larger level events or larger scales of events, perhaps, right? So you have to figure out what are your qualities and what have you done so far in school and college to be able to answer this question. So effectively, it is a repetition of those three qualities that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview. And an add-on part is how you can add value to the B school. Sir, I will add value by being a studious student and hardworking. I mean, everyone has fought hard to get to this point, right? So I'm pretty sure everyone is going to work hard in college. So how is that going to set you apart? Okay. So give me, so I promise I will work hard. Give me something more. Okay. So tell me a proper way that you can add value, right? The next question is this: what have you decided as your specialization? Now, things like criminal law, financial law, perhaps intellectual property rights law, or whatever it may be, family law, perhaps. So this is a question that might come up. If you don't have a specialization choice in mind, it's absolutely okay, right? It's absolutely fine. At the age of 17, 18, see, understand, they're not looking for people who are crystal clear about their objectives, about every single thing in their lives, right? It would make some sense as to they want you to have clarity about, at least, do you want to do law? Are you sure about it, right? So that's the why law answer. But otherwise, they're not looking for clear-cut answers and precise answers or specific answers every time. If you have one, great. Make sure to also add the justification because blah, blah, blah. But if you don't, say that one of the reasons I chose this course is because I know that most of the subjects are interesting to me and I want to take a decision based on my interaction with the faculty, the HODs, the seniors, etc., and the guest lecturers perhaps, and then try and come up with an answer. If you have a difficult choice between, let's say, two specializations, at least mention those two. These two are interesting to me, but I haven't really pinpointed something. I would like to take the time to experience the college, the faculty and all, have interactions with them, and then take a decision. Absolutely fine. But be okay with this, that it's absolutely fine to not have an answer to this question. Okay? Don't pressurize yourself to definitely choose a specialization as of today. Moving on. Why Symbiosis? Now, for those who are applying to Pune, will have a different answer than the Bengaluru one. Sorry, not Bengaluru, by mistake. The Noida one, the Hyderabad one, the Nagpur one, whatever it may be. So think about what makes that campus unique. And you're talking about that campus. You can talk about it on the larger level of Symbiosis as a group of institutions, what are their core values, etc. But make sure that you are also talking about that campus specifically. Now, please do not talk about the placement is good, sir, CTC is good, sir. That should be the last thing. It's there on everyone's minds, I agree. But that should be the last thing that comes out of your mouth. Talk about the profiles they offer. Talk about the wonderfully qualified faculty, perhaps. Talk about some profile of a faculty you found interesting. Acha, this person has even talked in so-and-so world level organizations or whatever, I don't know, has written a research paper on some topic that you find interesting. Or you talk about their infrastructure, perhaps. You talk about, let's say, the quality of the pedagogy, the course, perhaps, right? You talk about those things, talk about the campus, you talk about the faculty, you talk about the academic side, you talk about the various committees that they have that you might want to get into, stuff like that. Then talk about the profiles, the companies that come on campus, and leave it at that. Don't mention the money part. Okay, do not mention the money part. So something unique about each campus, you can dig around the individual websites and find out. But yeah, I'm sure you'll find something. Now, tied to this is the why should we choose you part. What you can do is you can go to the college website and you can take a look at something called values. Okay, every college has a set of values, and you can try to fit yourself, into those values. Now, everyone has more than 3 qualities, I am sure of them. But make sure that from the 10 qualities that you have, do you possess the 3 that the college is looking for? And then highlight those 3. It's okay to be a little bit shameless at this point and say that I understand how much Symbiosis values the qualities of blah, blah, and blah. And I've had many experiences where I've had the chance to display blah, blah, blah. And that is one of the reasons why you should take me. And then, of course, make sure to talk about that add value part. No doubt, add value to the college. But then from the 20 qualities, if you don't want to mention those in the tell me something about yourself, why not mention them here? So let's say you mention 3 different qualities, best qualities in your tell me something about yourself, and 3 of the qualities that are relevant to Symbiosis or SLS to be specific. SLS in this answer, why should we take you? That's absolutely fine. Just with this, you can talk about 6 different things, right? Okay, that's even better. So 3 of your best according to you in the tell me something about yourself, and the 3 on why should SLS pick you in the next one, right? So go through the college website, make sure to do that, and then see what are the things that they want their students to have. And then check how many of them you have. Don't give them a false answer, a fake answer. And if you don't have that quality, there's no point in lying to them and say, yeah, of course, I'm the best in it. No, there's no point in that. But at least showcase what you have in that case. Okay, go through the website, find their value statement or find their mission statement, etc., and you will know what they're looking for in their students. And then try to showcase those aspects of your personality. Okay, biggest achievement in life. This is highly subjective. If you say that your biggest achievement in life is, let's say, how you overcame a stammering problem, great, absolutely fine. No one can take that achievement away from you and say, according to me, that's not a great achievement. Nobody's going to do that. Okay, create a story around it. So you say that, okay, from childhood I had this issue and blah blah blah, and then I was made fun of for a while because of that, and I underwent a lot of speech therapy perhaps, and then I started practicing a whole lot. I had to take so much effort, and now finally I'm able to speak confident or with just hardly any mistakes. That's absolutely fine. Real life example. I was asked once in an interview what was my biggest achievement, and I responded with, I went paragliding in Rohtang and parasailing in Goa, and those 2 were my biggest achievements. The guy looked up from his sheet and, what? And then I started to talk about the story. First thing is to, wait, what? Create that interest in them. And then I told them that that might sound strange, but the reason I consider it as my biggest achievement is because I have, or rather had, a fear of heights, a debilitating fear of heights. I used to panic when I used to go to my 2nd floor terrace. It was that bad. So for me to take that sort of step would have been unheard of. But then my parents looked at me and they're like, are you sure you're going to do this? I said, yes, I'm going to do it. I did it. I was screaming all the way down and all that. But then I ensured that I did it because I didn't want that fear to become part of my identity. And yeah, now every fear I have, I try to challenge it as much as I can. That's it. That's my achievement. And they're like, fair point. I mean, heck, you had a fear. That's your personal thing. You went out and overcame it. All right. They can't take that away from you. Don't give silly answers, but overcoming fears is something that is a little bit substantial, right? So think of something like that. Don't think that, what if they don't think of it as big? That's not your problem. Okay. As long as it's something substantial, you go ahead and talk about it. Weave a nice story around it, give some background info, then talk about it. Absolutely fine. Biggest weakness. Don't make this mistake of stating your strength as a weakness. Sometimes I am a workaholic. I am too hardworking. Oh. Wow. That's called a rubbish answer. That's called trying to properly manipulate the panelists. They will see through it and they'll not interested. State something that is a genuine weakness and add what you're doing to overcome that weakness, or what are you doing to improve the situation. However, don't give them weaknesses that are detrimental to your candidature. Meaning what? One of my weaknesses is that I am short-tempered. Oh dear God, no. Please don't say short-tempered or I am too blunt and I am, I don't know, I procrastinate and things like that. No. Don't give those as weaknesses. You get in a lot of trouble for that. Because as lawyers, you've got deadlines, you are supposed to be diplomatic, you are, let's say, supposed to have a calm head about yourself. I am emotional at times. That's not an excellent quality for a potential lawyer. So stay away from stuff like that. Okay. Now, what should I write in that? You think, bro, I'm not going to give you all the answers right now. I'm just telling you what you shouldn't write. Right? Think about a genuine weakness and then talk about what you're doing to overcome that challenge. Right? Sorry. Now, what would you do if we do not select you? Obviously, sir, cry. No, you don't say that. You say that you will try and rewind the conversation and potentially try to come up with an answer for what went incorrectly in the interview, and obviously try to work on it. But sometimes if I don't find an answer for it, all I can do is come back stronger next year. That's it. There's nothing wrong. Don't be all cocky and say, if you are not there, I'll definitely get admission somewhere else, bro. And there's no need to be overconfident about that. Honestly, this is the only call that a lot of people have. So try and make sure that you are not sounding too desperate. At the same time, you recognize that you will try and work on your issue and you'll come back stronger next year. They are not silly enough at this point to ask you, what if next year also we don't select? No. Right? So start by saying, of course, I will be disappointed if I don't make it, but I'll try and replay this conversation and see where I could have improved and probably take a little bit more inputs here and there and come back stronger next year, because this is an opportunity that I do not want to squander. There's a reason I applied for SLS, and it is one of the premier law schools in India, etc., etc. And that's why I want to think about coming back stronger next year. Safe. Absolutely fine. Just through that, you're also, pumping their ego a little bit. So why not? Just a little bit is fine. Don't overdo it. Sir, what a nice shirt you're wearing. Don't do all of that nonsense. But a little buttering up here and there is not at all going to go wrong. So a few weird questions occasionally, but hardly any from what I know of Symbiosis interviews. Pretty straightforward. Tell me something about yourself. What are your long-term aspirations? Why do you want to choose law as a career option? What are your strengths and weaknesses, your hobbies, etc. I haven't seen too many wayward questions unless you go ahead and shoot yourself in the foot by saying something rubbish. Then they'll just get you on that. Okay. So make sure that you use a filter between this and this, meaning think about what you're going to say and then talk. Now, a question that a lot of people sometimes ask is, what if I don't know the answer to a question? Absolutely fine. Admit, genuinely think if you can recall the answer. But if you don't, say that you don't know, but I will find out. If you give me some time, I'll come back and I'll tell you the answer. Chalega. They won't, obviously, because it's an online interview, but it's okay to say that you don't know. Apologize and say that you know. Fair enough. You're not expected to know everything about everything. Yes. Something I neglected to mention, current affairs. especially relating to your domain. So say, for example, you say that one of your, you are deeply passionate about the Barclays Premier League. They will ask you things that are as simple as what is your favorite team, who is the coach, who is the captain, name 5 players from the team, how many Champions Leagues have they won, blah, blah. They will ask you some questions if you say that you're passionate about something as one of your hobbies and interests or something like that. So make sure that you are prepared with current affairs relating to your particular domain, and generally current affairs also. If I can just ask you a random question, talk about 3 pieces of news, interesting news that you have read about lately, and that shouldn't be the issue. That I've been preparing so hard for the interview the past 3 days that I haven't bothered to read the newspaper. Good God, please don't do that. Ensure that you're still being abreast of all of these current events. And 3 pieces of news in the past 2 days that you have read is a perfectly valid question. And there is no filter, that you can just talk about anything and everything that was interesting to you. Okay, right? So that takes care of the interview part. Now, something that went wrong in the animation is this bouquet bit. Now, I always talk about not focusing your personality on one part of it. So say, for example, all I have in my life is my academics. Shouldn't be the case. All I have in my life are extracurriculars. Shouldn't be the case. This is the chance to introspect and come up with 3 or 4 things that are varied and that you can talk about. Okay? Because it shouldn't all be about just one aspect of your personality, right? Come on, and surely we can think of stuff that is beyond our academics or beyond just our extracurriculars. Think about your motivations for pursuing law. Think about your motivations for picking up SLS perhaps, or think about your hobbies that you do, some hobby that you deeply follow or passionately follow. Talk about all those things, right? That is the expectation when we have a question like this. All right. So this is your PI bit. A couple of more pointers are to ensure that you don't say anything false or controversial. Be diplomatic. Admit when you don't know an answer. That's absolutely fine. They're not going to drag you over hot coals because of it. But make sure you also say that I will come back to you. If you give me the opportunity, I'll come back to you with the answer. And we just leave it at that. Cell phones, keep them miles away from where you are going to be sitting for the interview. One of those, a couple of things I haven't talked about, only because it's the online mode. I want you to be in a setting where there is a constant, uninterrupted and fast internet connection, right? If that means upgrading your current plan, go for it, because I don't want the whole the buffering thing is not going to help. So make sure that you have a fast internet connection. Make sure that, especially for the interview, you are sitting in a place that is well lit. And if you want to buy one of those ring lights and all, like all of your influencers, etc., make sure you do that as well, so that the face is visible and etc. I think this sort of proportion should be more than enough. Worst case scenario, if you have to use a headset, use it. Preferably don't, because that, like this, gives a better sense of your proportions, etc. So try to not use a headset. Worst comes to worst, use one of your wireless headsets, etc., or the true wireless ones. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. That's where I want you to do a dummy run. Just create an account on Zoom. A free account is more than sufficient. And you have a parent created or some friend created, someone who stays, of course, a little bit far away. And then just have a conversation for 15 minutes and see if your internet connection holds up. The video is not buffering, the audio is not lagging, stuff like that. And that should give you an idea of what to expect in the actual process. So do all of these dry runs within the next couple of days, and we'll see how it goes, right? You can take corrective action, call your internet provider, blah, 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 what have you. You can take all of those decisions quickly. choose your attire well in advance for the interview, and then wear everything and ensure that the grooming and all blah blah blah, all of that is taken care of. So that's probably it. Open your resume on the side and keep it. In case they ask you to upload a PDF or something, you should have both a Word document and a PDF of it ready. So keep both ready, and if they ask you, email it to you, blah blah blah, quickly send it, and then we can go on with the interview part. So that is all about the VAT and the PI. So what I will do is now I'll ask Paridhi ma'am to join in, and she will talk about the various topics that are likely to come up in the VAT. So I do have a list that we have talked about, but the list is obviously going to be indicative. So it's not like, okay, if we give you these 10 things, these are the only 10 things you should be studying about. So make sure that you don't say that, these are the 10 things given by IMS, that's all I do. So you have to do your own research on other things, but this is an indicative list for the VAT topics. So what do you, Paridhi ma'am?
Hi. So first of all, thank you for the amazing session. So I was there, part of the whole session. There are some things which are not important, which can still be a part of the VAT topic for law students, like a great resignation, okay, banning politicians with criminal record in contesting elections, which is very common, which happens from a longer time, but there have been a few things which are added new, like the future of the OTT platform. Okay, very hot topic from last 2 years is the Article 370, online education. This is the pandemic, this was like pandemic which gave birth to these topics. But always remember, there are some of the topics which are very relevant when it comes to the current affairs. They want to know, which I think Abhishek sir also said, that they want to know what is happening. You are reading the newspaper or not. So now, like a topic like sedition should no longer be an offense. There can be different opinions. You can say that, okay, sedition should no longer be an offense, but my opinion is this: there is no harm when we say that. Okay. Also, banning politicians with criminal record in contesting elections. Should petroleum subsidies go away? Now, here, don't keep a perspective only of India. Keep a perspective of other countries, how they do it. Do some research. I'm not asking you to dig a lot deeper into it, but at least the other Asian countries or the first world, like you should be aware what America is doing, you should be aware what Europe is doing. That all should be there. Now, again, as Abhishek sir said, there is nothing that, okay, these are the rules which will be followed, that only and only these topics will come. Do your research. What I know from last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, since it has become online from last 2 years, they give you 2 topics and you have to choose one. Now, don't choose the fascinating topic. Okay, this, if I like, it will be very good if I choose this topic. Okay, always choose which you can write more, and also where you have a command of language and you are well versed with many of the topics. Okay, many of the things happening in that area. Maybe it is an easy topic, but nobody is judging you there. Okay, maybe they are not even aware about what alternative topic you got. So this is one thing about the VAT topics. And about the interview, overall Abhishek sir has covered everything, but as a lawyer, they will always ask you, not like always is something which I just use it, but they will ask you a topic like what as a lawyer you will give back to the society. Now, there are 2 questions to this. If you have already thought, if you like from your past experience or whatever you have read, you have an answer that, okay, this is going wrong, I have to do this, and this is what I want to make sure that happens. Okay. But if you have an alternative answer that you have not thought about it, whatever is the need of the hour that time, or many other things which can happen, because you will be graduating after 5 years. You will not be graduating this year or 2022, in 2026, in 2027. You have no idea what is the perspective of the country, what is the economy, what is the political background. So you can give these 2 answers and there will be no harm in that. Okay. And other kind of questions under the PI is symbiosis versus NLUs. Now, be very smart. I have known students from last year with that, despite telling them, they've said, okay, if I get top 5 NLUs, I'll go. Nobody likes that. Nobody. If you tell me if I get admission somewhere else, I'll not come to IMS, I'll also not like it. Maybe I know it in my head, but still I'll not like that answer. Okay. So make sure that you have a very smart answer. I would say I will still believe that Symbiosis can give me that platform which no other institute can give. And they will stress on the point. Like, what about NLU Bangalore? What about NALSAR? You should have a smart answer. The answer shouldn't be that I have not got into it. And second, I would have not moved to from Mumbai or from my hometown if you are a Pune or a Mumbai student. Okay. So make sure you don't keep these answers when it comes to these two questions. Always when it comes to professional, like what profession you would choose, most of you are going to choose a corporate career immediately after graduation. Maybe later you will change, like I changed after a few years to teaching and many other things. So very firm answer, I would not like you to give that. I would like you to give that, okay, I want to see myself landing up to a job, looking at the perspective that time after 5 years, because it's not a 3-year degree that you can decide. It's a 5-year degree. When you enter the college, you meet your seniors, you meet every year, like you see a 5th-year student in your first year who is just getting into Harvard or Oxford, and you'll be like, never LLM was on your plate, but you'll be like, now I want to do LLM. So it is not a very short journey that you can decide for what you'll do after 3 years. Always give answers that you will look at the situation and do it. This somewhere will make you that you are not like you are indecisive, but answer in such a situation, such a way that it makes sure that you are giving a very decisive answer. Okay. I think Abhishek, so that's what you covered mostly everything. If students have any question, I would like to answer them. Abhishek, so?
I am not sure we'll be able to take too many questions at this point, because I think the comment section we will address separately
Correct.
after we are done with the session. So I guess that probably takes care of all the bits that we wanted to talk about.
Yes, yes.
Pardi ma'am, unless you have something to add.
I think everything was covered. Few things I made a point that which was not covered, like the Symbiosis and NLU question is, it kills everybody. I think it has been a very common question.
Right. So, guys, that's about it from both of us, I guess. So, all the best to all of you for the interview series. If you have any questions, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe as well.
One thing I would like to add, just we are on the topic. So about the dressing, there have been many students who have asked me. Abhishek sir said correctly that be formal and you can always wear a tie and everything. I'm sure many of the girls in the podium will have this question that we don't have it, or should we wear it? Just wear a very formal shirt. Okay, even my shirt today is little jazzy. So don't wear a white shirt, probably that will help. White or a black shirt. So
yeah, make sure you adjust your attire based on surroundings.
Yeah.
So if your background is white,
correct.
You look just like a dark
camouflage. Yeah, everything will camouflage.
Just figure those things out. I'm sure you guys have better fashion sense than I do, because I'm wearing an Iron Man sweater, so that should tell you a whole lot. So you guys take care of yourselves. Stay safe. If there are any questions, drop your questions in the comments. We will try to
Correct.
respond. Right. All the best, everyone.
All the best, guys. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.